Hey, so today I'm going to do the Enneagram Type 7. I'm going to go up to the point where I have compatibility and misidentification, and then some other days I'm going to do the rest because I'm feeling a little dizzy, today. Feeling not maybe dizzy is, too forward the word. It's not. I'm just in the process of feeling dizzy. I'm kind of, feeling a little weak on my limbs, particularly my legs, by standing up. So I'm going to be, careful with how I do things here today. So anyways, today's going to be Enneagram Type 7, which is called the enthusiast. The busy, variety-seeking type. Spontaneous, versatile, acquisitive, and scattered. I already, I have decided that, I was always between a type 5 for meaning 4 and a type 8 for meaning 7. And I have, recently, I mean yesterday, I have settled on type 8 for meaning 7. So that's pretty much why I'm doing, 7, because of wing is in there. And also it is the third more common one. When I took the test to see which ones I was more compatible with, it was number 3. Number 5 and number 7 they tied up, and number 8 they tied up, and then you have in third place you have type 7. And I had also mentioned before that this feels very much like like my ADHD. I'm gonna read more, so I'm gonna have more, like a stronger basis for me to do this. But but anyways, so the integration of stress is number 1, and the direction of growth is number 5. And it kind of like it makes sense, that I would consider number 5 as this type, because like there is something here basically what I'm trying to say. So Enneagram type in brief, 7 in brief. 7s are extroverted, optimistic, versatile, and spontaneous. I'm not extroverted, so one, indication that maybe this is not the one. Because, I think when you have this type, for example, like a 8 with a wing 7 and a 7 with a wing 8, like there is, something there. There's like a little, a little something. Like there's a certain similarity when I'm trying to say. Playful, high-spirited, and practical, they can also misapply their many talents, becoming overextended, scattered, and undisciplined. They constantly seek new and exciting experiences, but can become distracted and exhausted by staying on the goal. They typically have problems with impatience and impulsiveness. At their best, they focus their talents on worthwhile goals, becoming appreciative, joyous, and satisfied. I will say that, like right now, currently in my life, you could say that I have been kind of, scattered and disciplined. Although I do seem to be going into like the right direction, where I'm not scattered anymore. I think it also, like I think in my life I have a reasonable doubt about the things I'm doing. Like I'm trying to figure out like what the future is going to be like for me, and I don't really have answers. But I'm also like not completely like mindlessly scattered. I'm like considering different possibilities and different options, and I think that's perfectly fine. It's perfectly doable, and doesn't really mean that you have a problem yet. So basic fear of being deprived and you are in pain. I am scared of being in pain. That is something that I am, scared of. But type 8 is more, it's more being controlled, being coerced, that type of thing. And I think that one it speaks more to me. Basically, basic desire to be satisfied and contented, to have their needs fulfilled. It does sound like me and how I've been kind of like conducting my life lately. I've been trying to find, basically, I've been trying to find fulfillment. So, I guess I relate to this. Enneagram 7 for wing and 6, the entertainer. Enneagram 7 for wing and 8 wing, the realist. Key motivators want to maintain their freedom and happiness, to avoid missing out on worthwhile experiences, to keep themselves excited and occupied, to avoid and discharge pain. I relate to all of this, but I still think that like the key motivations of type 8, they are kind of like closer. They're closer to me. Let me go to type 8 so we can compare. Okay, so interesting. Type 8, the stress is in 5. Type 7, the growth is in 5. Being harmed and controlled by others is their basic fear. The desire to protect themselves, to be in control of their own life and destiny. And key motivations: they want to be self-reliant, prove that their strength and resist weakness, to be important in their role, to dominate the environment, or to stay in control of their situation. So they want to maintain their freedom and happiness, it's really valuing their freedom, their independence. So it's kind of interesting that this is the one that is kind of like thinking about maintaining freedom. To avoid missing out on worthwhile experiences, to keep themselves excited and occupied, and to avoid discharge and pain. To keep themselves excited and occupied is definitely something that is, speaks to me, because that is definitely something that, yeah, this is me. So anyway, so the meaning of the arrows in brief. When moving in the direction of disintegration and stress, scalar sevens suddenly become perfectionistic and critical at one. However, when moving into the direction of integration, growth, glutinous scalar sevens become more focused and fascinated by life, like a healthy fives. Interesting. I'm kind of interested that they're using glutinous as an adjective here, because this is something that I've been mentioning before. How I've been having some issues with gluttony since last November. Like I've been indulging myself more, and with that, I think I have gone through certain extremes at certain points in time. And then you have many examples that I'm not going to read. I don't find that a lot of these examples they really help me, because some of these people I know, but like I don't really know like what they stand for, what they are like. So it's like, okay, you're like this person, but like what is this person like basically? So Enneagram Type 7 overview. You have named this personality type enthusiast, because 7s are enthusiastic about almost everything that catches their attention. Once again, feels like my ADHD. They approach life with curiosity, optimism, and a sense of adventure, like kids in a candy store who look at the world without wide-eyed, wrapped in anticipation of all the good things they're about to experience. They're bold and vivacious, pursuing what they want in life with a cheerful determination. Talk about how, if my name literally means cheerful. There's something that my parents chose before I was born. Actually, they chose it after I was born. I was going to be called something else. But it's kind of like present in like in general, like in my life. I be considered a cheerful person, and this is something that like after I had my trauma when I was 13, like it changed a little bit, but like now that I'm back on my back on track, you could say, like it is kind of coming back, and it's very present. They have a quality best described by the Yiddish word chutzpah, a kind of brash nervousness. Although 7s in the thinking center, this is not immediately apparent, because they tend to be extremely practical and engaged in multitude of projects at any given time. Their thinking is anticipatory. They foresee events and generate ideas on the fly for further activities that stimulate their minds, which in turn generate more things to do and think about. 7s are not necessarily intellectual or studious by any set definition, although they're often intelligent and can be widely read and highly verbal. Their minds move rapidly from one idea to the next, make steps gifted at brainstorming and synthesizing information. 7s are exhilarated by diversity of ideas, by the pleasure of being spontaneous, preferring broad overviews, and the excitement of their initial states of the creative process, to probing a single topic in depth. This really does read like me, not gonna lie. But once again, it kind of it really reads my ADHD. But my ADHD is a part of me, and it's kind of like the way my brain processes things and interacts with the world. I still have like the typing, which I still kind of like I still said that is the one that makes more sense. But wing is 7, makes sense. I mean, not that I ever thought the wing was going to be 9 from the moment, even before I started reading. Just from the results, like you kind of like I was going to guess that like 7 would be the wing. But the more I read, the more I'm like, yeah, that is kind of like me a little bit. What is the, let me see. So, Enneagram 7 for week 8 is called the realist. I mean, in my case, it's the opposite, but makes sense. So now we have Devon, a successful businesswoman, shares with us some of her inner workings of her 7 mindset. I am definitely a list person. It's not really for memory since I have a great memory. It's more for downloading information so that my mind won't spin on it. I do that. That is actually something that makes sense for me. For example, I was at a concert where the tickets were hard to get and very expensive. I couldn't sit through it. My mind was torturing me with the things I needed to do. Finally, I had to get up and leave. It was very upsetting to the person I went with, and I might have missed a good show. Okay, so now we're offering that's a negative here, and I definitely relate to that particular thing. I never been to a show before, to a concert or anything, so I haven't specifically experienced this. But like, sometimes I think about this when I go to the movies. I pay money to be there. Sometimes my head is spinning. It's like with all these different ideas and things, and then I'm missing the thing I'm paying for. So I kind of relate to that. Sevens are frequently endowed with quick, agile minds and can be exceptionally fast learners. It is true both of their ability to absorb information, language, facts, and procedures, and their ability to learn new manual skills. They tend to have excellent mind-body coordination. That's not me. And manual dexterity, typewriting, piano playing, tennis, also not me. All this can combine to make a 7 into the quintessential Renaissance person. Ironically, 7's wide-ranging curiosity and ability to learn quickly can also create problems for them because they are able to pick up many different skills, and with relative ease, it becomes more difficult for them to decide what to do with themselves. I will say this is very reminiscent of me as well. I remember when I did the vocational test when I was 18, and I got really good results in basically all the things, all the areas, which meant that like I would kind of like pick and choose what I wanted to do. But this kind of like openness kind of like was a bit of like a detriment for me, because I was like, how do I choose, what direction do I go, exactly, like where is like my affinity with, like where like from here. Okay, as a result, they also do not always value their abilities as they would if they had struggled to gain them. This is something that people have told me before. Interestingly enough. When sevens are more balanced, however, their versatility, curiosity, and ability to learn can lead them to extraordinary achievement. Extraordinary achievement. Okay. The root of the problem is common to all types of the thinking center. They are out of touch with their inner guidance and support of the essential nature. As with 5s and 6s, this creates a deep anxiety in 7s. They do not feel they know what to do or how to make choices that will be beneficial for themselves and others. 7s cope with this anxiety in 2 ways. First, they try to keep their minds busy all the time. This was me in middle school and high school. Like I was just, keeping, it going. I was like working at a certain pace, and that helped me to, keep going and not stop or just get stuck. Okay. As long as 7s can keep their minds occupied, especially with projects and positive ideas for the future, they can to some extent keep anxiety and negative feelings out of conscious awareness. Likewise, since their thinking is stimulated by activities, 7s are compelled to stay on the go, moving from one experience to the next, searching for more stimulation. This is not to say that 7s are spinning their wheels. They generally enjoy being practical and getting things done. The thing of getting busy and staying busy, I also relate to that. Okay, so Frances, a successful business consultant, sounds more energetic than is humanly possible, and yet she's a typical 7. I'm highly productive. At the office, I am joyful and my mind is running at its best. I might create several marketing campaigns for a client, work on the outline for an upcoming seminar, talk out a difficult problem for a client on the telephone, close 2 deals, make a project list, dictate a few letters, and look up to see that it's 9:30 a.m. And my assistant is coming to start our work for the day. Okay. I like this energy. I would like to keep this energy going. I think I have the potential of like doing this. I don't know if I have, like the execution is, strong so far. I mean, when I was working, thinking about my last internship, I think it was kind of like this vibe for me, because I needed stimulation. I think that a lot of like the internships I had struggled, particularly because of that. There was not enough stuff to do. The first one that I had when I was 17, I was, just, as I said, I was like a 17-year-old intern, so they hadn't, like there were like not that many things for me to do, and I found myself busy. I started writing my novel, and then with my second internship, I did the same thing, and was kind of writing the novel, but also like other things, and I need to keep myself busy. Is basically what I'm trying to say, and I struggle if I have nothing to do. Being bored is kind of like the death of me. Anyways, second, 7s cope with the loss of essential guidance by using the trial and error method. They try everything to make sure they know what is best. On a very deep level, 7s do not feel that they can find what they really want in life. Oh my god, that has been me lately. Although right now I feel pretty centered and pretty like, okay, I know where I'm going, that type of thing. But, at different points in time, I have definitely felt, like this, I don't know what I want with my life, or don't know what to do. Right now I am in a position where I am, changing things and pivoting. So I'm not feeling particularly lost, because I'm going to try something new. I'm going to start something new. But, if I start something new and it doesn't really work out, then I'm going to go back to just being like, what am I doing here? What's the point, basically? They therefore tend to try everything and ultimately may even resort to anything as a substitute for what they're really looking for. True. If I can have what will really satisfy me, I'll enjoy myself anyway. I have all kinds of experiences that way I will not feel bad about getting what I really want. Oh, okay, this is once again, it's really like me. Lately, I have been, but lately, I started indulging myself last November, so that's kind of like, I guess, when this whole thing started for me. But yeah, kind of uncanny. Although so far, like whenever I'm reading, I'm like, yeah, I relate to this, I relate to this. Except I'm thinking about like 5 and 8. Although 5 was more like I related to this in the past. Some things were still related to me in the present. This was reads very current, and I think it also read current the last time for the first time I read this, a couple of years ago. So in a certain way, like I'm kind of like still here, but it also like reads true. So I feel like I'm like it is an 8 for week and 7, or 7 for week and 8. I don't know if like I'm because before 7 there would be 5 to think of. But yeah, I'm seeing why this is like would be the best wing for me. We can see this in action even in the most trivial areas of their daily lives. Unable to decide whether he wants vanilla, chocolate, or strawberry ice cream, Seven will want all 3 flavors just to be sure he does not miss out on the right choice. This also reads a lot like me when I was younger. When I was struggling with making simple decisions, as I talked about before, like the bigger ones, I usually had some heading. I knew where I was going, but like the simpler daily life ones, like I had some issues, and basically I would kind of like if my money allowed, I would do this. If the money didn't, then we would go there installments, basically, or maybe. Having 2 weeks for vacation and desire to visit Europe brings a similar quandary. Which countries and cities to visit? Which sites to see? Seven's way of dealing with this would be to cram as many different countries and cities and attractions in his vacation as possible. While they're scrambling after exciting experiences, the real object of their heart's desire, their personal rosebud, as it were, may be deeply buried in their unconscious. Maybe so deeply buried in their unconscious that they're never really aware of precisely what it is. Furthermore, as 7 speed up their pursuit of whatever seems to offer freedom and satisfaction, they tend to make worse choices, and they are less able to be satisfied because everything is experienced indirectly through this dense filter of their fast-paced mental activity. The result is that 7s end up anxious, frustrated, and enraged, with fewer resources available to them physically, emotionally, or financially. They may end up ruining their health, their relationships, and their finances in their search for happiness. I'm not gonna say that I've gone that deep, but this is also like more an unhealthy level of things. But yeah, so Gertrude, also third excerpt they have, and it's also another woman. Interesting. Gertrude is busy establishing her career and family now, but she looks back at how this tendency contributed to her getting rough start in life. There wasn't anything to do at home or in the tiny southern town I grew up in. I was dying to get out of it and go someplace more exciting. When I was 16, I started dating. Before long, I got pregnant, but my father didn't want to marry me, which was okay since I didn't want to marry him either. It wasn't too long before I found somebody else and we got married and I got to move to a larger city, but it didn't really work out the way I wanted because after I had the baby, we broke up and I had to move back home. I stayed there for a year or 2 to get my feet on the ground. When things were looking bleak, I married someone else. I'm 19 now and I guess I've done a lot already. Damn, girl, like a 19. On the positive side, however, 7s are extremely optimistic people, exuberant and upbeat. They are endowed with abundant vitality and a desire to fully participate in their lives each day. They're naturally cheerful and good-humored, not taking themselves too seriously or anything else for that matter. Yeah, that relates to me. As we have seen, the basic desire of 7s should be satisfied, happy, and fulfilled. And when they're balanced within themselves, their joy and enthusiasm for life naturally affects everyone around them. They remind us of the pure pleasure of existence, the greatest gift of all. Okay, now we have the reason discussing type 7, as with the other ones, like it's usually just discussing the things that I have already read, so I'm going to skip that one. Enneagram type 7, levels of development, healthy levels. Level 1, at their best, assimilating experiences in depth, making them deeply grateful and appreciative for what they have. Become awed by the simple wonders of joys of life, joyous and ecstatic, intimations of spiritual reality, of the boundless goodness of life. This feels more compact, like in the smaller scale if you compare to type 8 and the healthiest level that they have. Okay. They become self-restrained, magnanimous, merciful, forbearing, mastering self through their self-surrender, and higher to a higher authority. Courageous, willing to put self in serious jeopardy to achieve their vision and having lasting influence. May achieve true heroism and historical greatness. I feel like the same way that like everything about type 3 seems to be very negative, everything about type 8 seems to be very positive. You know, they're very negative things, but like I don't mind the negative things from type 8. They don't really read to me as necessarily weaknesses. They're just shortcomings, things to improve. And even when because I think ultimately, even when you're kind of like in your weakness points, you're like in a healthy level, like you're still imposing yourself. Of course that is happening through like unhealthy ways, but like you're not letting yourself be controlled. So I think this particular reasoning for me explains why like I'm an 8, and why I relate to a lot of the 7. It is not really. I feel like this a healthy level 7. It reads like like the simple life. You have simple joys, simple things, and a part of me might crave the simplicity of a simple life. But usually it is because everything else is kind of like overwhelming. Everything feels good, everything feels very surmountable. You look deeper inside and you find like this slower level, not slower because like it's already like one thing to pass another and all that, but yeah. Anyways, level 2, highly responsive, excitable, and enthusiastic about sensation experience. Most of our extroverted type. Not me. Stimulate bring immediate responses. They find everything invigorating, lively, vivacious, eager, spontaneous, resilient, and cheerful. I relate to all of these things except the extroverted part. I'm not extroverted. So level 3 easily become accomplished achievers, generalists, who may do different things as well. Multi-talented, practical, productive, usually prolific, cross-fertilizing areas of interest. What I've been observing is that usually, sometimes level 2 and level 3, they feel, like more, you're accomplishing more. They feel like you're kind of like better. But it's because I think level 1 is there's this element of spirituality, not necessarily like religious based, but there is, something there that is very, about, you looking internally and being fulfilled, in yourself. And finding this fulfillment in yourself, not just externally. I think that 2 and 3, like it's more external things. And it's interesting because I think from the first time that I read, and even like right now, there is a part of me that is very like I think this sounds better. I know this is not better because ultimately we're looking for enlightenment here. That's pretty much what we're going for. But like if you're thinking about where I am at in life and the things that frustrate me, like type level 2, level 3, they would be more like they would give me more. But I think I should do with like if you think about Maslow's pyramid of needs, like you kind of like you go up. So I feel like because I'm having this area that is not fulfilled, I'm focusing more on it. And when I fulfill this area, then I'll be able to look up for like the thing that is a little bit more, as I said, not spiritual is not the word, a little bit more intrinsic, intrinsic self-realization. Must become accomplished at average levels. Level 4, as restlessness increases, once you have more options and choices available to them, become adventurous and worldly wise, but less focused, constantly seeking new things and experiences. The sophisticated connoisseur and consumer. Money, variety, keeping up with the last trends is important. Money, variety, keeping up with the latest trends important. I think they're missing an is here. Important. I think that if I were to kind of like see where I am at, if I were to look specifically at the type 7, I think I'm more at type 4. Like I think this restlessness is something that I still feel and that's still kind of like present in my life. Yeah. So unable to discriminate what they really need, to become hyperactive, unable to say no to themselves, throwing self into constant activity, inhibited, doing and saying whatever comes to mind, storytelling, flamboyant exaggerations, witty, wisecracking, performing, fear of being bored, in perpetual motion, but do too many things, many ideas, but little follow through. This really reads like mania specifically. Like that is basically my mania because I have ADHD, so like it has this verb, but yeah, I was kind of like this a little while ago before I started taking this combo of medications that I'm taking. They're making me kind of like stable and well-rounded and healthy, all that. I was very much in this place mentally, level 5. I think it was interesting because I think that there was a certain increase of like a certain improvement because I was like that, and then I got level 4, and then right now I'm kind of like a level 3 maybe. I'm just looking for that, looking for I mean, kind of like I'm working on that basically. Level 6. Guide to conspicuous consumption in all forms of excess, self-centered, materialistic, and greedy, never feeling they have enough, demanding, pushy, unsatisfied, and jaded, addicted, hardened, and insensitive. This is, like where I was before I was a level 5, so, which I'm curious to see because I kind of like, I got manic, and I kind of hate a certain rock bottom, although it's mania, so it could be the top, just kind of like hit down, and then I fell, hit it. Now on healthy levels. Level 7, desperation, failure, anxieties can be impulsive and infantile. They do not know when to stop. Addictions and excess take their toll. Debauched, depraved, dissipated, escapist, offensive, and abusive. I don't know if I got to this low, which is great. It means that like I got a little like unhealthy, but I didn't get unhealthy. That's good. Level 8. In flight from self, acting out on impulses rather than dealing with anxiety and frustrations. Go out of control into erratic mood swings and compulsive actions, manias. Okay, here we are. Level 9. Finally, their energy and health is completely spent, become claustrophobic and panic-stricken, often give up on themselves in life, deep depression and despair, self-destructive, or produces impulsive suicide. Generally corresponds to the bipolar disorder and histrionic or personality disorders. I'm bipolar, so I guess like I found because I did mention that some they were talking about different disorders, and I was like, which one is going to be bipolar? So this one apparently. But it was an interesting way of putting it because basically it feels, because I look at depression and mania as if like I'm going low in depression, I'm going up when I'm manic, but the way they're seeing it feels like there's like this kind of like level, and then you start going down, and this is mania, and then you get to a point where you hit depression. That's an interesting way of looking at it. I hadn't thought about it before. I mean, I have thought about how it's like you reach, it also works with my metaphor. When you're going down and you're going up, but when you go up, you hit the ceiling, and then you fell down, because you hit and then you go to depression. They both work. So addictions. The most prone to addictions is similar. The most prone to addictions. Interesting. I talked about this before. How I feel like in theory, I could be more, like involved with addictions than I am in real life. So I think, thankfully, I have not struggled with addiction. And that's a blessing. Yes. So stimulants: caffeine, cocaine, amphetamines, ecstasy, psychotropics, narcotics, and alcohol tend to avoid other depressants, whereby with effort to stay up. Excessive cosmetic surgery, painkillers. Interesting. Personal growth recommendations for Enneagram Type 7s. Recognize your impulsiveness and get in the habit of observing your impulses rather than giving in to them. This is an interesting one for me because I think historically I have had a tendency, after a certain point in my life, when I was younger, thinking 18 to 21, that wasn't really the case, but after that I started to give in to more my head, more, and it can be kind of a problem because like my head is I have because of mental illness, my head is not always in the right place. So if I'm giving into that, I'm kind of like, it's not that I'm giving into despair necessarily, but I'm giving into something, some force in my head that is not the healthiest and should not be the one I'm like listening to basically. This means letting most of your impulses pass and becoming a better judge of which ones are worth acting on. The more you can resist acting on your impulses, the more you'll be able to focus on what really is good for you. Interesting, this is actually something I can, work on. And I don't think that I've been probably, since the first time I read this, I've been working on that, kind of like working on my impulses. And I think that compared to some other things that I've been able to improve on, I haven't worked as well on that one. Although, like, to be fair, I'm thinking about like the past month, and I have many good examples of me just being able to control my impulses. Although the way that I usually, want things to work is for me to not have the impulses because I struggle to contain them if they happen. But I do have some examples of like impulses coming and just me being like, no, but it didn't have to do with them being at a lower level. Like they're not as intense as some of the other impulses that I had. But anyways, learn to listen to other people. They are often interesting, and you may learn things that will open new doors for you. Also learn to appreciate silence and solitude. I don't have issues with that, to be honest. things depriving me. You do not have to distract yourself and protect yourself from anxiety with constant noise from television or the stereo. Oh yeah, although I'm saying that is not an issue that I have. It kind of has been an issue that I've had this past couple of months, but it's not really me all the time. Like right now that I seem to be getting more, to like a level place, no longer, to up or to down. Like it's easier for me to just consume some things. And also, like I'm thinking about the moments that I was able to have contained, and they do involve me, having some other type of distraction. To be fair, like yesterday when I was going to bed, I did have like an interesting moment where I was just like living in silence without music, without anything, and I was able to go to bed. And so I kind of have issues with this, but like I also sometimes I don't, which means that there's a work in progress. Then, by learning to live with less external stimulation, you will learn to trust yourself. You'll be happier than you expect because you'll be satisfied with whatever you do, even if it's less. It is less than you have been doing. That's an interesting one, because I think once you reach a certain pace that you're just constantly doing things, like slowing down can feel quite oppressive. Like it feels like you are, losing. It's kind of like feels almost like an operation. Like you're just cutting out a piece of yourself, and for you to just be able to sit down and like not do things. It does not have to have everything in this very moment. I mean, I know that in theory, but in practice it can be an interesting journey for me. The tempting new acquisition will most likely still be available tomorrow. This is certainly true of food, alcohol, and other common gratifications. The ice cream cone, for instance. Most good opportunities will come back again, and you'll be in a better position to discern which opportunities really are best for you. I don't know if I fully agree with this. The generalization here that like the opportunity is going to be back tomorrow, because a lot of the things that I consume, they are kind of like on the very last leg. So if I don't take them now, they won't really be back when comes tomorrow. Because I like to get stuff that is like on sale, that's expiring, stuff like that. So usually like those are in the very end, and then if you don't get them there, you will kind of like miss out on those things. Okay. It's really best for you, but I do also kind of agree with the whole thing of like opportunities they come back, because I mean that's the thing, like a lot of opportunities they're not going to come back, but I think what I have to learn is that is okay. You only have so much, you can only do so much. So if like something that you're doing, it doesn't really pan out the way that you wanted to, that's okay. You're gonna miss some opportunities, but that's part of life, particularly because you cannot really just jump on every single opportunity. Like you need infinite resources to do that, and I personally don't have infinite resources, so I have to pick and choose the battles that I choose, the battles that I pick and choose the battles I choose, but also like the opportunities I would jump on. So anyways, always choose quality over quantity, especially in your experiences. This is something that we had actually been having, like I've been able to do, kind of like better since the first time I read this. I've been focusing more on quality, and I think when I first read this, I was already starting like this process, because when I was younger, everything was about quantity, and it's interesting because I see my brother and he does the same thing. I think I should do with youth too. Like when you're youth, like when you're young, you want, to kind of like get the most out of, for example, food, for example, and alcohol, and all these types of things. You want to get the most with like the littlest amount, which means that like you're going to make different choices than, for example, I'm making right now, where I choose to go to different to places that are like a little more expensive, but like the quality, as I said, is better. Also because I'm nearing 30, so I have to start changing some of my habits of consumption. I won't be able to I keep up this at this pace for the rest of my life. And for once, I'm looking forward to after 30, I'm like not kind of like feeling the burden of existing after that. I'm just I'm in a good place, basically. Passion experiences. The ability to have experiences of quantity can be learned only by giving your full attention to the experience you're having now. If you can anticipate future experiences, you will keep missing the present one and undermine the possibility of ever being satisfied. I feel like this is not an issue that I have. I still sometimes I go for quantity over quality, but like that, those are they are in the minority, basically. And for the most part, I am the whole thing of like being present, like that's been my mantra lately. Be present, and I've been enjoying things as a consequence. I've been enjoying my daily things, instead of just looking forward to like to the future. In fact, I think that might be true in the present. I might need to kind of like do something to think more about the future. Okay, so make sure that what you want will really be good for you in the long run. As the saying goes, watch what you pray for, since your prayers are may be answered. As the saying goes, watch what you pray for, since your prayers may be answered. In the same vein, think about the long-term consequences of what you want, since you may get it only to find that it becomes another disappointment or even a source of unhappiness. That is an interesting one, and that's one that I kind of like have. It does come over me. Like thinking about the future. I do struggle still with making. I struggle with making, plans for the future. I make some, and like I just have to jump on those. The little moments I have where I'm just thinking ahead, and I think that's an issue that I have has to do with mental illness. So there's like some other holes I have to think about. It's not just like the main one, where I'm getting my fulfillment and my contentment, because sometimes it's very like momentary, and I don't have the desire of like being like long run, making it long term, and that has to do with like my mindset and the way I'm looking at my life and at the future. And I have to like, I don't know, the point I'm trying to make is that this is not just a little something I have to change in my life for me to live better. This has to do with like there are deeper roots here that I have to work on. But right now I'm doing well. As I mentioned, I'm like thinking about the future, and I'm wanting to like look forward to the future. I'm just thinking ahead, and that is not that ahead, not that far ahead, but a little ahead, and that's good. Like making plans. I don't really know what the future holds for me, but I have some guidelines. I have some things that I'm going to keep thinking about. In the near future, and also they may turn to like the long run. So anyways, that's kind of it. That's type 7. I really tweet a lot, more than I think I would probably, but there are some things that are also like not me. So this, it just confirms to me that it's an 8 with a wing in 7. Like I'm relating a lot to this, and I'm going to read about compatibility and misidentification X, and I think it's going to be even more confirmation of what is. So anyways, bye.